Hello, fiber friends. Welcome to another episode of the Knit, Knot, and Weave podcast. My name is Dorothy, and I'm coming to you from Columbia, Maryland. This is my little corner of the YouTube where I journal and share my fibery adventures with you all. That could be knitting, crocheting, weaving, dyeing, whatever. Any other crafty rabbit hole I might go down. So if this sounds like something you are interested in, grab a cup of something to wet your whistle, grab a project to work on, and let's get started. Hello, friends. It is Thursday, September 18th. I am recording this right after work, so excuse the mess. I wanted to get this done because I am going away for the weekend tomorrow after work. A much, much needed weekend away, I might say. Anywho, if you are a returning viewer, welcome back so much. I appreciate you guys returning and watching my little corner of the YouTube. And if you are a new viewer and you just found me, thank you so much for sticking around and welcome to the crazy. So on this episode, I have several finished objects and a couple of whips to share with you guys, one dye project, and a couple of books. So let's get started. So first up, I'm just very quickly going to go over this because this is still wet and on the blocking mat, on the blocking mat. And if it dries, I will insert some B-roll over here for you guys to see it. But I finished my mother's guitar tee. Yay! It was made on a 2.25 millimeter needle. It was a US 3. So the guitar tee is a pattern by Sorry Norland, and the pattern cost $9.68. This was my mother's Christmas gift that I had not finished. She wanted me to make some adjustments to it, so that took a little bit longer, and it took a little bit longer than even I expected, but it is finally finished. Next up is going to be my Mara shawl. This is a free pattern by Audrey Borrego. Excuse me, I just have my notes here that I'm looking down at. I used a 3.5 millimeter needle, which is a US 4. I used a Dragonfly Fibers colorway in their pixie base, and the colorway was called Eastern Bluebird. So here you have it. You can see that there are very distinct sections. I obviously have not blocked it yet, but I was just so excited that I finished it. I wanted to share it with you guys. Again, if I happen to block it before I'm done editing, I will put in a fully blocked picture here for you guys to see. But this was knit exactly to pattern. I made no modifications. There are, I think it was 3 or 4 very distinct patterns throughout this shawl, and it was super easy to knit. Each of the patterns were very memorizable. I think each pattern was like only a 2 or 4 row repeat. So it made it very fun to knit because you weren't doing the same things. You were constantly changing the patterns. It's a little scarflet shape with a little V in the middle. So you basically go weigh your yarn, and you go about until you have almost 50 grams left. I'd say I would err on the side of caution and maybe do 55 grams. I don't know why. I always seem to use more yarn on my decreasing than my increasing. I don't know why. It shouldn't be that way, but I do. But this is lengthwise before blocking. It is my wingspan, and I am 5'5", according to my last doctor visit. I'm very unhappy about that because last time I was there for a full physical, which was a couple of years ago, I was 5'6". So I shrunk another inch. I don't like this getting older shit. Anywho, this will get blocked out. This is going to go into the gift bin. And there's so many different ways to wear these little scarflets. I personally like to wear them like this. You tie a little knot in them, and they work great under a coat. Oops. Check out my new dragon earrings. Are they cool? So anyhow, or you could use them in the old style, and if you have some sort of a scarf cuff, you could put a scarf cuff here, not a cup, a cuff here and wear it this way. And then maybe when this is blocked, I can think of some other ways. But anyhow, this was very fun. I'm glad this is finished. I think this is very easy for a beginning knitter. There are no difficult stitches in this at all. It's basically ribbed, gartered, stockinette, and a row of yarn overs. So nothing very difficult. I would if I do this again, I would probably do it in a more solid color, because these color pooling sections here kind of throw the whole look off. But I know that's because the rows were getting shorter. I do like how it variegates in the middle there. But would I knit this again? Yes, I would. And I probably will be. This was a perfect one skein wonder knit. All you needed was about a 400 yards of fingering weight. And if you had more, you could go even further. If you had a little bit less, I would be cautious, only because depending upon how less, what am I trying to say? If you have less than 400 yards, you may not get the length you need to bring it around and do the little knot here. So depending upon how you want it to look, but I would suggest at least 400 yards. And so there you have it. There's one. And then my second is my Hitchhiker. The Hitchhiker is by Martina Berg. It's an $8.56 pattern. I have probably knit 5 or 6 of these now. This was done on a 3.5 millimeter needle, which is a US 4. This is also, no, I'm sorry, this was knit on a 3 millimeter, a US 2.5. This is a Neighborhood Fibers yarn in their organic rustic fingering base. The colorway is Sanctuary City, and I had 2 skeins of this, so I knit the full pattern, which was, I think it was like 49 of these little teeth that you were supposed to go to. And this is again another beautiful scarflet style. This one I probably will not block because it's all garter stitch. I'm just going to weave in these ends here. And then sometimes, can't see what I'm doing, I will double knot it and tuck it under, just so that you can see the pretty edging that this pattern makes. It's a super simple knit, definitely easy enough for a beginner knitter. It is basically just garter stitch, which means you knit every row and a couple of cast offs after so many rows to make these little sawtooths, and of course increasing to get the asymmetrical pattern. This is probably going to go to my sister at Christmas, because this is definitely her colorway. She loves the oceany, tealy blue greens. She is definitely the sun goddess worshiper in our family. Her and my dad have that beautiful dark toned Italian skin that, you know, tans in the sun. Me and my mother somehow have this white Irish skin, and we just burn. So I used approximately a quarter of the second skein, so probably about 580 yards maybe. And I know the pattern did call for a larger skein, so I highly recommend this yarn. If you have less than, if you only have like a 400 yard skein, you can always end this a little sooner. Like I said, I have knit this several times. I believe like this might be my 5th or my 6th. And I know not all of my skeins were at least 500 yards. Some of them were 400, some of them may have been 450. So you just go until you are getting ready to run out, and you do your last cast off, and you go cast off the whole thing, and you have a beautiful, lovely shawl. And that's going to go, like I said, in the gift basket. It's probably going to go to my sister at Christmas time. Next up, I I finally broke out one of my looms. I have several different size rigid heddle looms. All my rigid heddles are Ashford looms. I like them. I like them because the wood that they are made out of is very, very light. The different sizes allow me to bring the smaller sizes with me if I am going on a retreat or to knitting. And so I broke out my 16-inch wide Ashford and I warped it up with some of Miss Bab's yarn. You can see it here on the ends here. It was Miss Bab's Kiera, and it was the Maryland Sheep and Wool colorway for 2016. I used a 10 dent heddle because Kiera is more of a heavy fingering light sport weight yarn. So I went with a 10-inch heddle. I'm sorry, not a 10-inch, 10 EPI, which means 10 ends per inch. I warped up approximately 140 ends. So I made on the loom, the scarf was 14 inches wide. And then my weft, I used Manos de Uruguay Clara, which is a single ply sport weight in a bluish colorway. And when I first started to weave it, I was trying to do a little bit of an artsy take on it. And so I had some Handspun in my stash that the orange I had bought off of Etsy, and I don't remember the shop name, but I thought with all the blue, the orange would be a lovely contrast. And then these little locks that are coming out are from a skein of yarn that I purchased from JK Fiber Arts. And she has a podcast on here too, where she talks all about spinning. So if you are a spinner, you may want to go and check her out. She will be linked in my show notes below. But after I got this much done, it was not speaking to me. I felt like this was not something I would wear. It's not something I was really liking how it was coming out. As I was trying to pull the locks out from the spin to be a little bit more curly, I feel like they just sort of got frizzy. So I just continued on because I was not going to take it out. And I finished the scarf in just the Manos that I had. And I'm thinking that I may make some, why can't I think? Either some box bags or some notion bags with this with this fabric. So you could see all the lovely colors that are in that warp yarn, which is the Miss Babs. This may give you a better inkling. So there were some browns, some purple, not some purples, some turquoises, some pinks and reds. And so this will, I don't know when, but it's definitely going to be used as a piece of fabric, and I'm going to sew up, like I said, either a box bag. I don't know if I have a pattern for a box bag. I can always find one. Or it's going to become maybe a couple of notion bags, because that I definitely have enough of. And then I'll just need to find a lining fabric, which I'm sure I have in my fabric stash. But it was so good to get the weaving out again, to get my looms out again and do some weaving. It's been quite a while since I've done any weaving, and now I've got the weaving bug. I want to put even more on my looms. Next up, I have my felted bowls. I actually got them felted in the washing machine. So this was, what pattern was this? Small Tulip Felted Bones by Cindy Pylon. It's an $8 pattern. And I used Malabrigo's Rasta with a 10 millimeter hook, a US 15, to actually knit the bowl up. And it was actually much larger than this when I finished. I read the pattern wrong. I thought one skein of Rasta was going to be enough. Unfortunately, Rasta does not have enough yardage to make this a one skein wonder. So I did a little modifications. I took out some of the rows and I just made 4 petals instead of 5. And then I had a little bit left over. And so that's one. And the second one I made the same. It was with Malabrigo Rasta. This was made with the teal feather colorway. And then you can see here, I used the remaining of the Arco Iris to give it a little colorful detail here. And then I used a little bit of it on each of the petals to just give the flower a little bit of interest. And then these were both thrown into the washing machine with a pair of jeans. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure I put each of them in a mesh lingerie bag so that they wouldn't felt together. They had a little bit of space in there, and I let them run through, I think actually 2 full cycles, because the first time they weren't as compact. And so I sent them through a second cycle, and then I was pleased with the turnout. So you could see that the purple one is just a little bit smaller than this. So this one was actually knit to pattern size-wise, and this one's just a little bit smaller. But I think they're both very cute, and I love how they turned out. So much fun. I'm actually thinking of doing some more felting, but these are my 3rd and 4th bowls, so I think I need to hold off on the felting for a little while. But if you haven't felted and you have some Malabrigo Rasta yarn in your stash, I highly recommend this project. Malabrigo Rasta is a single ply, super bulky weight yarn, and it felts very easily. There's no need to worry about over shrinking because this is just a bowl. And like I said, these went through 2 rounds, and you can see how well felted they became. Here's the other one. You can see there. Get my eyes out of the way here. And they're nice size bowls. They can still be used as yarn bowls. And then next up, I have a couple of hats that I've made. So the first one is called the Beginner's Welcome Hat. And it's an $8 pattern on Ravelry by Lily Pearsall. I used a skein of yarn I got from a friend of mine that is Cozy Colorway Works. It's their superwash worsted, and the color is Party Time. Party Time. I used a 4.5mm needle for this. The only modification I made was to the cast on. I did an Italian tubular cast on in the round, and I just like the look of that for hats. It's a nice, kind of well-rounded. And then you can see it's long enough that it covers my ears. There's a nice size band. I really enjoyed making this hat. I have a little bit left over. I don't think it's enough for another hat, but maybe if I can find a colorway that matches it, maybe I can do the brim in the other color and do the rest of the hat in this. Or what do you think? Maybe should I make a pom-pom? Should I make a pom-pom for this hat maybe? Let me know, because there's not a whole lot left. Or it could go into a DK weight blanket. Who knows? This is what happens to me when I start going through my yarn stashes. I find all these skeins of yarn. Excuse me, that was a burp. I find all these skeins of yarns that I don't really want to get rid of, but because I think they're just so pretty. And so I feel like if I don't get rid of them, I'll cast them on right now. So next up, I have the Hatch Hat. It's a pattern by Emily Green, and it's an $11 pattern. I used Lion Brand's Ferris wheel. I have a bunch of this in my stash in all the different colorways. This one is the color 604 Sprinkles. I think it's very, very pretty. Love the colorway, the rainbowy effect it has. So this is the Hatch Hat. It was knit on 3.75mm needles, which is a US 5. Oh. Very cute, hugs the head nicely. I did have, because this is a larger skein, this is, I want to say it was like a 400 and something skein, yardage in the skein, that I have enough to make a whole nother hat. But this was a fun pattern to knit, as it just sort of takes you through different stages of ribbing. That was very fun. That will go in the party time hat's going to go in my gift box, and the Hatch hat is going to go into the donation bin. Every year we do hats for local schools that are on Title I, and we donate the hats to our schools. So here's another one. This is from Red Heart Colorscape yarn. The colorway is Acapulco. And there is, let me see if I can even read it. So this is listed as a 4-weight yarn, but I feel like it knits up more like an Aran weight, and I used a, what did I use on it? I think it was a size 9, which is a what, 5 or 5.5 millimeter? I can't remember. Okay, so this is 187 yards in this skein. So I love the colors. I thought it was very pretty. And so you get a very muted rainbow with this colorway. I really liked it. This was a self-drafted hat. I didn't follow any pattern. Again, I did the Italian tubular cast on. And then, did I? Wait a minute. I did the Italian tubular cast on, which is a 1x1 cast on, but then I switched it to do the 2x2 ribbing. And then I did stockinette all the way up. And then I did decreases and bound off. Not sure if I'm going to get another hat out of this. I might try for an acrylic. It's very, very soft. It definitely has more of a wool-like feel and look to it. But this is going to be another one for the donation bin. So that's 2 more hats that I get to put in the donation box. Yay! And then because it was Tour de Fleece, I did a whole lot more spinning than I did knitting or crocheting. And as I said, I was going through my stash and I pulled out some things that I don't remember buying. I don't know where I got it from. Maybe I got it from one of our yarn swaps that my knitting group does. But here's one that's and I did not bring, shoot, I forgot what this one. It's a silk and tinsel. You can see that I tested it out on size 3 and 4 needles. And I have that by the number of holes. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do this so I don't cover my mouth. So you can see here, so this section was done on a size 4. And then this section was done on a size 3. It's very, very soft. I'm not sure whether I like the 3 or the 4 better. They're both somewhat see-through, even though, yeah, it's definitely a little, I would say, a light fingering. So I have this color, and then I have one that's one that's blue, and then one that's like a blue and purple. Not sure what I'm going to do with them, but I thought I would see at least how it would look knit up. Then I happened to find this cotton yarn in my stash, and I'm pretty sure I got this at a swap. It's giving me very, very Halloween-y vibes. So here it is, knit up on a size 5. And then, oh boogers, I didn't put, I think this may have been on a 6. I forgot to put in, the yarn overs. But I'm thinking I like it on the 5. It makes it a bit of a tighter knit. You're not going to see through it as much as this larger one. Although actually, not really seeing through it much. But I was thinking of making just a simple tee with this one for Halloween, because it's giving, like I said, it's giving me very Halloweeny vibes. There's green, orange, black, and white in here. And I thought it would be cute for just a simple pullover tee. Maybe the Tulsa tee. That's an idea. And then I found this cashmere in my stash. No idea where I got it from. Not really my colorway, so I don't know why it's in my stash. But I have 3 little mini skeins of it. So I went ahead and swatched up. I used a 3, US 3, and then a US 4 needle. They are both very, very nice. I think I just may make a like Sophie scarf with it. So I think it'll be very, obviously it's cashmere, it'll be very soft around the neck. And then once I block it, I'm sure the cashmere will bloom some and be even nicer. So that's what I did mostly between spinnings, was swatching. And then once the Tour de France was over, the Tour de France and the Tour de Femme, for those of you that don't know what Tour de Fleece is, or Tour de Fleece, you can go watch my last episode. I talked all about it and what I spun up. I pulled out my Franken blanket. Which is this big heavy monster. This was a blanket I started many, many moons ago, sometime last year, I think. And it's basic linen stitch. And I held 2 fingering weight yarns together. So this is very, very long now. It's probably over 70 inches long. And I used a size, what size hook did I use? No, that's not the right one. There it is. The hooks I've been using lately are in my little sheepy cup over here. But this was a Clover Amour hook. Love these hooks. And this was a 5 millimeter USH hook. And so this blanket was crocheted up. I think I crocheted on like 275 chain, the starting row. And then I did the linen stitch, which is a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1. And then in the following row, you do the same thing, but it's opposite. So if you do a crochet 1, single crochet, crochet 1, I'm sorry, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1. When you turn and work it the other way, I think it was single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, so that your single crochets were crocheted into the chain 1 space in the row below. Oh my God, I hope I'm making sense, because right now my brain is going. Blah, 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 blah. Each row of this blanket uses 2 strands of fingering weight held together, but each colorway is only used in 2 rows, and then I switch them out. So it basically used about somewhere between 6 to 8 grams of each yarn color. And then I was about halfway done with this blanket, and I had to rip it all the way back to about here. I was not a happy camper, because pulling out yarn that was crocheted up in that manner was a bitch. And the reason why I had to crochet back is because somehow I got off track on the edging, and the bottom of my blanket was like, say, this wide, and it went up, and then all of a sudden it went in and it went up. So I had to pull it all back out to where it was nice and long, nice and wide, and redo the whole thing back up. So when I did it the second time, I wound up doing, oh my God, I'm completely blanking out on the name of the knot that I used. And I was about to say weaver's knot, but that's not the right knot I used. And I know you're all probably yelling at your screens right now saying, Dorothy, it's, and I can't remember it. Oh, Lord, menopause brain is a real thing. So anyway, magic knot. I knew I'd get it as soon as I gave up. So I wound up magic knotting all of them together as I was pulling them out because it was just too tedious for me. I still managed to get just about, like I said, each row was, two different skeins of two different fingering weight colorways. So I managed to maintain the idea that I had for this blanket the whole way through. So this blanket is now as long as I need it to be. And somewhere in here there was, okay, so here's the marker from when I showed you guys how far I was the last time. So I just needed, what's that, about maybe another half a foot. And it's probably about 72 inches now. So I'm just going to take this out before I lose it and pull out stitches. There we go, my little Tigger. The wonderful thing about Tiggers. Tiggers are wonderful things. Now I want to figure out what I am going to border this with. I like to put, even if it's a simple single crochet border all the way around. I was thinking I might do a single crochet border of black and then maybe do the crab stitch around it as a final piece. And I like crocheted borders because I just like to neaten up the edges here. So this probably will not be done by my next episode because I have to figure out the border, and to do a border around this thing means it's going to be in my lap for quite a while, and it's not quite that cold yet. Sorry, that was my computer telling me I have an email. But I'm happy to say that the crocheting of this, the length is where I want it to be at. And I absolutely loved crocheting that blanket. I apologize if I said knitting at any point. I'm so used to talking about knitting. Anywho, I have so much fun crocheting up this blanket that I immediately started another one. But not one like this. I decided that I was going to crochet a version of the Jelly Roll blanket. I have a huge bin. It's one of those 31 bag bins. It's one of their big totes. And I have all my little mini skeins that I got from Row 1 Mini. Probably a good year and a half, probably even more worth of minis in there. And every time I got them, I would just put them aside because I was working on this blanket, the Jelly Roll blanket, and the Blattenberg blanket, and I was trying to use all my leftovers. So I figured I would hold off on the Row 1 minis until I could start something new. So here I have something new. So here is my version of the Jelly Roll blanket, but crochet. Okay, this is the way it goes. So I started down here with a Row 1 mini, and I crocheted until I ran out. The first row is always the easiest. I crocheted, these are all, if you don't know what Row 1 is, Row 1 is a company that goes out and solicits from new yarn dyers all across, I don't know if it's the world or just the country, I'm not quite sure. But they have these people dye up a certain number of skeins for them, and then they break them down into 10-gram mini skeins, and you get a sampling. So if you, and it's a subscription, so every month you can get either a 1 bag or 2 bags of mini skeins. So it's either 100 grams, it's 10-gram mini, so you would get 10 grams to equal 100. If you get 2, you would get 20 10-gram minis, and they would all be different colors. So there's a set A and a set B. So I just took 1 bag out and crocheted up one after the other to make my first row. Luckily, 10 mini skeins made it long enough for me. I like my blankets a little bit longer because I like to usually have them wrap around my feet, and then I like to have them all the way up here to snuggle up. So then I started the second row, And I like to have, for this look, this blanket look, I like to have my skeins offset. I didn't want them all to meet up at the same place. So the first one I did just like a half the skein, and then I would just set it aside for some other scrap project. And then I went ahead and did 10 grams, 10 grams, or knit, whatever it was. Some may be, because they are hand wound up, they might be, I don't think the people used 10-gram minis to dye them. I think they were wound from 100-gram skeins. So it could be that you got maybe a little bit over 10 grams or just under 10 grams. I did not weigh them out. I could just tell that some went longer than others. And I crocheted them together as I went, which was very easy. And sort of, if you are a crocheter, you should be, I think it would be very intuitive as to where you would put your crochet hook in to attach them together as you are working. And for me, this is the right side, but even even on the wrong side, the way the stitches come together, it makes this nice little V here. So it doesn't bother me. I just prefer the clean look. And so this for me is the right side, but either way, this is definitely a reversible blanket. It's a much lighter weight, obviously, than my Franken blanket, because the Franken blanket was a double strand of fingering. So I really like the lighter weight of it, and I'm having fun going through all these colorways. I did a 26 stitch chain to start with. And so the easiest way for me to go back and forth was to do an even number. And so I would start it off, the first row would be a single crochet, chain one, all the way to the end. And then the last 2 stitches would be single crochet, single crochet. And then I did my normal 1 chain and then turn, but I didn't like, let me see if I could show you on this one, since I still have it here. When you do that, you get these little bump outs, almost like your edging is scalloped, which is one of the reasons why I'm looking to put a edging on this. But this way, if you just turn it and do crochet 1 without the extra chain, it makes a much smoother edge. And although I am probably going to put a edging on this anyway, if I don't, I think it makes a much cleaner look. And I am just having a blast with this one. It is now getting a little bit too heavy to be in my lap until it gets a little bit colder. But I'm having so much fun with this blanket. I am loving how some of these colorways are doing this almost like an argyle look to it. And then others are much more blended. And then this one, you can see this one, how it sort of pooled in a neat way. So I don't know what, to me, that's just like the most fun. It's just seeing how each of these blocks is coming out with the way they were dyed up. So, and this one I am using an E-hook, and this is an old crochet hook. This is a Hero crochet hook. It's probably one I got from my grandmother's crochet stash a while ago. She didn't normally use crochet hooks. She mostly used thread crochet hooks, and I do have a few of those in my hook collection from her, because she crocheted a lot for us. And that's how I feel like continuing with my crocheting, I'm honoring her in some way, because she taught me both. She taught me how to crochet and how to knit when I was very young. And I didn't quite take to it because, one, I was being a super, super tight knitter, and I think I was getting frustrated. So then she thought she would try and get me to crochet, but I was very much as my family tried to direct me and get me to be a right-handed person, I was obstinate and stubborn, and I was doing things with my left hand. I now know that I am ambidextrous. I still do a lot of things with my right hand. I actually do most things with my right hand, but I definitely crochet and eat and paint with my left hand. But scissors, I use my right hand. Uh, Serving when I was a volleyball player, I used my right hand. It's the weirdest thing. And I know I always felt like I was just such an oddball until I learned that I believe Chevis is the same way. And I know there was another podcaster. Why can't I think of her name? I think they were the same way too. And I would say my right leg is the more dominant leg too, which is odd. But like I said, welcome to the crazy. And that is all I have for whips for you this week. I have no acquisitions. I'm trying to be a good girl, and going through my stash is helping me with that. I did test my hand at some dyeing. So I had purchased some fiber quite a while back because I wanted to learn to spin up socks. I wanted to learn to spin thin enough to make socks. And then I watched a couple of spinning lessons, and I can't remember if it was a podcast or one of this. Anywho, where you would do a 3-ply sock yarn and you spin 2 singles in the S. I'm trying to think now and get these all mixed up. You spin 2 singles one way, and then the third single you spin the other way, and then you ply all 3 of them together, and that one reversed skein somehow makes the fiber extra strong for socks. I have to look more into it for that. But I pulled out some fiber that I had. This is a superwash Cheviot, 75% Cheviot and 25% nylon. And I dyed this. Isn't it cool? So I'm more than likely going to split this and do a fractal spin with it. Ooh, this is looking more orange. But this is definitely a very, very bright pink over here. This is orange. This is coming out true to color. And yeah, this is coming out almost a little brighter. I'd say this is more of a denim-y color blue, but it's coming out a little bit brighter. But this is definitely a pink, not, I don't know, it's looking reddish on my screen. So these will get spun up into, hopefully, a pair of 3-ply socks. I'm looking forward to trying out that technique and then knitting up a pair of socks for myself. That was fun. It was very, very different dyeing up fiber than it is dyeing up yarn, because you definitely have to watch the pot. I mean, I didn't have to be as careful because I knew that this was a superwash fiber, but if it was a, what am I thinking? If it was a non-superwash wool, you definitely have to watch the pot more carefully because you don't want to burn or felt your fiber. And because you can't really flip fiber when it's wet, I really had to make sure that I would squish it down so that I could get the color in, because I really wanted the color saturated through. I didn't want a whole lot of white, because when you spin up fiber that has a lot of white patches in it, it can... So if there was a lot of white patches in this blue area, when I go to spin it up, the white makes this like a much lighter color in the end than this deep blue that you're seeing here right now. So I made sure, and I would, push it down, try to make sure that I had the colorway going all the way through the fiber. And I did that for each section. And then I let that sit for a little while to make sure that the colors were all absorbing and going through, and, crossing my fingers that it was getting to the fiber that was on the bottom of the pot. And then I added the citric acid and, covered it and let it heat till the color set. So that was my dyeing adventure for this episode. I have to get my button gear because I'm supposed to be doing a trunk show at our knitting retreat. So I'm going through and trying to get my trays cleaned up, get my powders ready, and then get some of my undyed yarn ready, because I've got a little over a month to get ready for this. And I'm a procrastinator by nature, but I'm told I'm not a procrastinator. I'm told it's my ADHD, so even worse, I don't know. Anywho, that is all I have for you in regards to fibery adventures. So, if that is all you are here for, you are more than welcome to leave now. Please, if you've enjoyed this episode, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that bell so that you get notified when I put out any more episodes. If you are a reader and would like to stick around and listen to what I've been reading and watching, let's keep going. So I did wind up reading 2 series over the summer. The first one I started rereading was the Black Dagger Brotherhood. And I read it from, now I can't think of the first book, The Lover. I think it was The Lover, all the way through the end to The King. And for those of you that don't know, this is a series that is now on, that they are now making. This is a series of novels by J.K. Ward, fabulous, fabulous author. And they are turning this series into a TV series, but it's on Passion Flix. And I was not going to order that subscription because I feel like we are getting subscriptioned out the wazoo these days. But I saw some skits of it, and I saw who was playing the characters. Some of them I thought were spot on. Some of them didn't quite match the persona that I had created in my head. But after rereading the books and I guess paying maybe a little bit more attention, or just refreshing my memory of the characters, I felt like the characters that I was seeing that were being portrayed in the TV series were a little bit more spot on. But there's one character I'm really, if they wind up doing the TV series through all the books that are in this series, I'm really interested to see how one particular character, who also happens to be my favorite character, is going to change. But so that it's a vampire series book. There's definitely, some hot and steamy in it. Nothing too over the top, nothing that I would call X-rated. But, if you're not into that stuff, I don't know if you'll be into this series. I mean, it's not based all around that, but it's definitely a big portion of the series. What I really liked about the way J.K. Ward does this series is she has several storylines going through the novel. So you've got the main storyline, and then you've got two backup storylines that are going at the same time, and that winds up leading to the next book. And she repeats that, like you're seeing these two characters and you're watching their relationship evolve, and then you're watching the way the Brotherhood evolves, and then you're learning about how other characters are evolving, and so it sort of really leads you through from book to book. Now her series has continued. I just haven't gone beyond the King because some of the things that were going on, some of what I read about the other books going through it, I don't know. I felt like, I mean, I may get to it at one day, but I felt like stopping at the King was really a good stopping point for the series right now for me. I feel like I've learned the characters, I've got to know them all, and so I'm at a good stopping point for this series, because otherwise the series can go on and on and on, I think. And when series do that, I sort of get tired of them, which is why I never finished the Anita the Vampire Hunter series, and now I'm married. No. Anyway, if I remember who the author is, I will put it. Anita Blake. Why does that happen to me all the time? As soon as I give, no, Anita Blake is the main character. Oh my God, forget it. Anyhow, so I reread that series, and then I watched the first season of the Black Dagger Brotherhood, and it was really good. It was very spot on to the book. The characters really came through for me. I really I enjoyed the way they did the characters. It was very good. Moving on. Otherwise, I could talk forever on this series. I started the Black Witch series again. This is a 5-book series. It's more YA related, and it was by Laurie Frost. The first one introduces you to the world of witchcraft and magic. So there are witches. There are witches. There are elves. There are fae. There's werewolves. And it's very much a battle between the races, is the best way to put it. So the first book introduces you to most of the characters, and the most important one is the person who we think is going to grow up to be the next Black Witch. But her uncle has been hiding her ability. And so we have the Black Witch, the Iron Flowers is the second, the Shadow Wand, the Demon Tide, and then the Dryad Storm. Very good series. Love how it ended. I'm glad the series had like a final ending and she didn't try to continue it on and on. Very good series. Highly recommend. If you have teenagers, they may enjoy it as well. It's a YA series. Then I read The Diabolical Bones by Bella Ellis. This was, I just found out it's actually a book in a mystery series. It's the Bronte Sister Mysteries. This was the second book, but I'm reading the first. I'm actually listening to the first book right now, and it seems like each book is its own mystery. So you don't need to have you don't need to read all the previous ones if you find one that you like better. Like I think the title just grabbed me, so I started reading it, and it wasn't until I put it in my Goodreads that I saw that it was book 2 in the series. But anyway, it's the Bronte sisters. It's 3 sisters. It's 3 sisters and a brother, and then their father, who is a preacher. The father's going blind. None of the siblings are married. They're all of marriageable age for that time period. So it's a bit of a historical time period, historical fiction time period. The 3 girls start looking into a murder. There was basically an old, oh God. There was someone in the town that found bones in his fireplace, in the chimney of the fireplace. And so these 3 girls decide that they're going to investigate, and it goes on from there. Very good book. It was a fun mystery read. Then the last book I'm going to share with you is The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. This was a bit of a creepy book. It was a group of friends that they had a pact that they would, basically, if somebody said something, if somebody said this particular phrase, and they all had to do what this one friend wanted to do. So it was 5 of them. Yeah, four males and a female, and they were out. I think it was senior year. They were out on a camping trip, and they found this staircase in the middle of the woods. There was no house, nothing else, just a staircase. And one night of the hunting trip. What am I saying? Hunting trip. Did I say hunting trip? Camping trip. Camping trip. I'm sorry. It was a camping trip. I don't know where I got hunting trip from. So one night of this camping trip, one of the guys had said the phrase, and they were all supposed to, take a dare and go up the stairs that they found in the woods. Well, this one kid who is he's like the star of the group, he always gets good grades. He's the captain of the football team, yada, yada, yada. He challenges everybody to go, and he goes all the way up the stairs. And when he looks like he's jumping off, he disappears. And then the rest of the 4 of them freak out. Nobody follows. They make it look like he left the group or had an accident, jump off the cliff or whatever. And they went about their lives. 20 years later, one of the guys from the group gets them all back together. They and the staircase disappears. I'm sorry. The next day when they go back to like do a little bit more, the staircase is gone. So the staircase disappears. So 20 years later, one of the guys found the staircase, sent an email to the rest of the crew asking them to all come out and meet him. He tells them that he's dying of cancer and he wants like a last hurrah. And they're all pissed off because he brings them here and there's the staircase. And this time they all decide to go up and try and find their friend. And that's where I'm going to leave you, because that house is creepy. So, on that note, I am going to leave you. I so appreciate you guys watching me till the end. If you did manage to watch to the end, put a little heart emoji in the comments so I know that you watched all the way to the end. And I will see you guys next time. I hope that you are knitting or crocheting or crafting to whatever joys you have in life. I hope that you are getting peace wherever you can in this crazy world that we are living in right now. And I will see you next time. Ciao, ciao. Love you guys.